Welcome to Forum Homini. We believe Forum Homini is Africa at its best. You have the savannah, you have the beautiful trees, you have nice water. The idea is to enjoy, to chill, to sleep, to read, to really make this a breakaway that will give you a new lease on life afterwards. Forum Homini came to be through imagination, but it's also about imagination. And today we're going to talk on two levels. On the one, what you see is what there is. The other level is what was, what could be, and how did things happen. It's this romantic story of how apes slowly evolved through climate change and the effects of it into what we are today. How did the imagination that we have that could create an hotel like this develop? And that story is fascinating. If you want to use your imagination and go through the steps, you might enjoy the journey. Welcome. Our early ancestors certainly didn't have much imagination. And no one would have thought that they could become humans over the next 4 million years. They had one very interesting feature. They could walk upright quite successfully from tree to tree, normally to take figs to their lady love. And that put us on the path to become humans, and to show that, we put sandstone cutouts of early, small, tree climbing feet in the floor, slowly evolving into our feet today, where we have big feet made for running and made for walking. On our journey from RDs to humans, not only did our feet grow and our legs became longer, our brains also grew. And to show that, we had Marco Cianfanelli making us this feature here. We call it the sum of us, because we are the sum of all the people that came before us, even the apes who were not yet people. Slowly over the 4 or 5 million years, we developed flatter faces, but we also developed bigger brains that could do more things. And some of the things that we do as humans, like talking, like socializing, like using our imagination, we need the brain for, and that slowly developed, and that's what we have here. This light fitting is a subtle hint at the most important, most complex molecule probably in the whole creation. This is a DNA molecule, the famous double helix of Watson, and it can replicate itself, but not every time accurately. And once in a billion times it makes a mistake, and that's how mutations happen, that's how evolution works, because now natural selection can find small mistakes, and if they are better than the previous one, that can be built in to new forms of life. Imagining how a molecule can be the recipe to build life is a test of imagination. On the other hand, we humans think in terms of visual images. And what we have here is how an artist, a very famous South African artist, Paul de Tooy, saw in his unique style how we moved from the RDs, very simple apes, into a discussion, and then afterwards into modern man, and maybe in the future, modern man standing on its head. That's how people can imagine in visual images. Forum Homini is not your normal name for a hotel. We chose that name specifically because a forum is a marketplace, nowadays a marketplace of ideas, and homini or hominids is the people and their ancestors that walked on two legs. So the idea is that here we can have a discussion with our ancestor. The guy with the red lips is us, and the guy with the green lips is our ancestor, but also amongst each other. So this is a place where people talk about people, with people, about people, and where they come from. The two human developments that really changed us are tool making and using fire. Behind me here we have the most ancient modern art probably in the world. The elements on this wall are casts of stone tools found in the area, and they were then cast in ceramic and put into tiles all by hand. They show us tools that are still pebbles with just a single side or two sides flaked off. It doesn't sound difficult to flake a pebble into a tool, but to imagine that inside a round stone there's actually a tool was a big step forward for men, for ape men for that matter. And anyone who have tried to flake off a side of a pebble will find it is not so easy. So to be able to do it, you need quite good eye-hand control, which means you have to have a brain that's fairly well developed and that can control your hand, something which a chimpanzee cannot even learn to do. So over the 1 million or 2 million years since RD left the trees and started to work in the savannah, they had to defend themselves against the new incoming tigers who slowly became lions and leopards. Horses came in and they developed into zebras as a way to protect them against the lions who developed here. And in the process, these early ape men developed, they co-evolved with the animals in Africa. But to be able to defend themselves, these small, slow apes needed to stand together on the one hand, but also had to use tools. But they couldn't make tools, so they just used stones and sticks. But after a time, they could actually imagine changing the tool to make it sharper and better. And that development is what we show on this wall. However, there was another development that really made a difference, and that was the use of fire. We don't know where they first controlled fire. We imagine fire was from the lightning and a felt fire. But sometime, maybe 1.5 million years ago, maybe 2 million years ago, some of these ape men learned that they could keep fire going. And with fire, they could move into caves, because if you have a cave with fire, you're not scared of animals. If you are in a cave without fire, you're just a nice midnight snack for a leopard. So the impact of fire on how people lived, what they had for lunch and dinner and breakfast made such a difference that helped to make us human. Seeing we're not a museum and we want to convey the interesting stories through art, we had this fire painting commissioned. That gives us the feeling of fire, how it came about, volcanoes, lightning, and what it did for people. And that gives us the feeling that we are the products of fire, which probably explains why we still love fires, why we still look at fires, why we have braais. Fire and tools, fire and knives are the things that made us human. This working piece of art is called Have Fire, Will Travel. Before we could travel though, we had to go through a few changes. With good, sharp stone axes and stone knives, we could make long spears. With fire, we could harden them and we could eat better. So within a few 100,000 years, which was a short period of time in evolution, the short-legged apes with dark, long hair slowly became hunters instead of being the hunted. They could take turns to chase an animal until it gets so tired and sunstroked that it actually passed out, and then they could corner it with their sharp spears and their sharp knives and become a source of food. In the process, they developed longer legs. So how do you develop a longer leg? The lady said, we like the men who bring their bacon home. And the one with the better legs, better running, better hunting, brought the bacon home more often. And of course, after a period of time, the longer-legged, better running types became the dominant ones. And we changed into smooth-skinned, dark-toned, long-legged hunters. So not only did we have tall, dark men, they also had six-packs. So we had a modern athlete developing here in this area 1.5 million years ago, and we still like the physical properties of that person 1.5 million years later. As our brains grew to handle the more difficult social interactions on the one hand, and also handle better tools, we found new uses for these bigger, stronger, larger brains. On the one hand, we used it for imagination to think up new things, and one of the most important innovations was to start putting words together in different sequence so that we had language. Previously, you could probably just shout a word, a thing had a name, but you couldn't build your own new sentence. But with imagination, one could actually develop language. And is there a better way to demonstrate language than to show it in a Greek-type amphitheater? 2,500, 3,000 years ago, the Greeks had their comedies, their plays, their tragedies. Basically just spoken word, imaginative stories of gods, of kings, of battles, all done in this amphitheater where people could let their imagination go and enjoy a line, a story, a voyage, which none of them actually partook in. Until about 10,000 years ago, when people started to farm on a permanent basis. Of course, they were hunter-gatherers. And the hunter-gatherer will have to move behind and after his prey over the seasons. But they had no animals, no wheels, so whatever you had to carry in your hand or on your head. If you made art, you had to carry the art with you. So the artwork that were made by these Stone Age people were normally small. So what we did is we took about 25 well-known Stone Age artworks, but some of them large, some of them very small, and had them recreated in sandstone totems. They were not made in sandstone and they were not totems, but they were made and they were around, and by reproducing them this way, we also give the Stonehenge feeling, which is an important part of our past. So it's just a way of remembering what people thought, and we can think whether it was used for religious purposes, whether it was used for shamans doing projections or predictions or whatever they used. We don't know, but we can see that they gave it thought and they put their thoughts into action. So out of imagination, we got works of art representing something that you think. And what we've done here is to just reproduce it to allow your imagination to think again what did happen and what could they have meant with what they made. Without fire and tools to protect yourself, the safest place for a hominid to sleep was in a tree, which is a little bit less comfortable than sleeping in a cave. And what we have here is a reproduction of a 5-star cave today. In their times, I would suggest that a cave was 5-star compared to a tree. But we have all the elements here that you would find in a cave. The stalactites coming from the roof, the water at the back, the cave open at the front, moving in slowly and getting darker as you get deeper into the cave. If you're lucky, you have water, and if you haven't got the water inside, you have the water outside, and that's why we put the double sensual bath in front. So you can sit in the bath, have a chat, and look at the African landscape while you're relaxing and while you're chatting. Homo sapiens, that's us, were the first homo, the first people with serious imagination. And that developed around about 150,000 years ago. And with imagination, one can have art. And the one thing that these early artists really loved doing was to take their hands, put it against the cave wall, take paint in their mouths, and then spray it onto their hands, onto the walls. And we have caves where you have hundreds of hands saying, I was here. And that's a message that can come from 30,000 years ago till today. We are all still humans, we're all here, and it's just a nice feel, and that's why we put this hand on the wall. Most people are quite interested where we come from. But on the other hand, we also want to live in the now. And to make sure that the now that we enjoy is really good, we had to offer good facilities for people to enjoy. So we have 14 rooms. The one is the honeymoon suite, the other one is the presidential suite, and 3 of the other suites have got their own jacuzzis outside, which is quite fun even in winter. We have the pool where people can enjoy, see each other, they have some exercise. We have the forum, which is actually ideal for big outdoor meetings or for weddings. The forum is where we have a big hall where either weddings or meetings or presentations can happen. We have the boardroom where serious discussions with high-level executives can happen. We have a media room where smaller groups can sit, either enjoying music, having a small meeting, with a little sitting room or lounge in front of it. The highlight of coming to Forum Homini, of course, is Roots, the restaurant, which within the first year it was voted in the top 10 restaurants of the country, and it's still one of the highest rated restaurants in Gauteng and probably in South Africa.
What we do at Roots here is we do a type of menu called dissation, which is a fine dining journey through food with wine pairing that goes through. And we try to say to our guests here, it's an excitement. You should be excited to come and eat food. And with Roots, we take the ordinary and throw it out. And we start with a core ingredient and we base around the core ingredient what works well, what's in season, what's the local produce. And with that we come up with unusual dishes to push people's boundaries and the mentality to make them dining experience a lot more enjoyable. I work very closely with the sommeliers to make sure that we ensure the correct wine is paired with the correct food. We do smaller portions because with the tasting menus, every portion has unique style, unique flavours, and with the burst of flavours that come through, the wine complements it at the same time. And the people come through and enjoy the style of food that we do here. The food is more French with a sort of a new modern twist with African themed into the style of food as well. So there's always something new, always something inspiring which is on the menus for our regular customers that come back. They're always excited to see our new menus that run through because there's something they've not had before or something they've not tried, and they're generally quite inspired. And I enjoy talking to the guests at the end of the dinner service and listen to their comments and their feedback to see what they say to us. And you know, with that we can progress and learn to make sure that the dining experience for the next person is of top quality.
We came to Forum Homini for our wedding anniversary, and I thought it's a great place to come and take my hubby for a getaway, a special getaway, and to surprise him. And the food was great, the atmosphere is great. Yeah, the experience was amazing.
I think it's great to be out here. The fact that you're so close to Johannesburg and yet it's so peaceful. So you could be 6 hours out in the bush in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, it's very peaceful and it's tranquil, and yeah, it's a perfect close getaway to Johannesburg.
The whole idea is that as social animals, we want to talk to each other, we want to talk about each other, and we want to talk where we come from, and we also want to talk about what is going to come.